60%, so I don't know how much we will be able to read. And let's go on where we last were. Chapter 17, The Astonishing Flight of the Gump. When the adventurers reassembled upon the roof, it was found that a remarkably queer assortment of articles had been selected by the various members of the party. No one seemed to have a very clear idea of what was required, but all had brought something. You're adorable. The Wogglebug had taken from his position over the mantelpiece in the great hallway the head of a gump, which was adorned with wide spreading antlers. And this, with great care and greater difficulty, the insect had carried up the stairs to the roof. This gump resembled an elk's head, only the nose turned upward in a saucy manner, and there were whiskers upon his chin, like those of a billy goat. Why the Wogglebug selected this article, he could not have explained, except that he had aroused his curiosity. Tip, with the aid of the sawhorse, had brought a large, upholstered sofa to the roof. It was an old-fashioned piece of furniture, with high back and ends, and it was so heavy that even by resting the greatest weight upon the back of the horse, the boy found himself out of breath when at last the clumsy sofa was dumped upon the roof. The Pumpkinhead brought a broom, which was the first thing he saw. The Scarecrow arrived with a coil of clothesline and ropes, which he had taken from the courtyard, and in his trip up the stairs he had become so entangled in the loose ends of the ropes that both he and his burden tumbled in a heap upon the roof, and might have rolled off if Tip had not rescued him. The Tin Woodman appeared last. He also had been to the courtyard, where he had cut 4 great spreading leaves from a huge palm tree. It was the pride of all the inhabitants of the Emerald City. "My dear Nick," exclaimed the Scarecrow, seeing what his friend had done, "you have been guilty of the greatest crime any person can commit in the Emerald City. If I remember rightly, the penalty for chopping leaves from the royal palm tree is to be killed 7 times and afterward imprisoned for life." "It cannot be helped now," answered the Tin Woodman, throwing down the big leaves upon the roof. "But it may be one more reason why it is necessary for us to escape. And now let us see what you have found for me to work with." Many were the doubtful looks she cast upon the heap of miscellaneous material that now cluttered the roof, and finally the Scarecrow shook his head and remarked, "Well, if young Nick can manufacture from this mess of rubbish a thing that will fly through the air and carry us safety, then I will acknowledge him to be a better mechanic than I suspected." But the Tin Woodman seemed at first by no means sure of his powers, and only after polishing his forehead vigorously with a chamber leather did he resolve to undertake the task. "The first thing required for the machine," said he, "is a body big enough to carry the entire party. This sofa is the biggest thing we have, and might be used for a body, but should the machine ever tip sideways, we will all slide off and fall to the ground." "Why not use 2 sofas?" asked Tip. "There's another one just like this downstairs." "That is a very sensible suggestion," exclaimed the Tin Woodman. "You must fetch the other sofa at once." So Tip and the Sawhorse managed, with much labor, to get the second sofa to the roof, and when the 2 were placed together, edge to edge, the backs and ends formed a protecting rampart all around the seats. "Excellent!" cried the Scarecrow. We can ride within this snug nest quite at our ease. The two sofas were now bound firmly together with ropes and clotheslines, and then Nick Chopper fastened the gums head to one end. That will show which is the front end of the thing, said he, completely pleased with the idea. And really, if you examine it critically, the gum looks very well as a figurehead. These great palm leaves, for which I have endangered my life 7 times, must serve us as wings. Are they strong enough? Asked the boy. They are as strong as anything we can get, answered the woodman. And although they are not in proportion to the thing's body, we are not in a position to be very particular. So he fastened the palm leaves to the sofas, two on each side. Said the Woggleback with considerable admiration. The thing is now complete and only needs to be brought to life. Stop a moment, exclaimed Jack. Are you not going to use my broom? What for? Asked the Scarecrow. Why, it can be fastened to the back and for a tail, answered the Pumpkinhead. Surely you will not call the thing complete without tail. Said the Tin Woodman. I do not see the use of a tail. We are not trying to copy a beast or a fish or a bird. All we ask of the thing is to carry us through the air. Perhaps after the thing is brought to life, he can use a tail to steer with, suggested the Scarecrow. For if he flies through the air, he will not be unlike a bird, and I've noticed that all birds have tails, which they use for a rudder while flying. Very well, answered Nick. The broom shall be used for a tail, and he fastened it firmly to the back end of the sofa body. Tip took the pepper box from his pocket. The thing looks very big, said he anxiously, and I am not sure there is enough power left to bring all of it to life, but I'll make it go as far as possible. Put most on the wings, said Nick Chopper, for they must be made as strong as possible. And don't forget the head, exclaimed the Woggleback. Or the tail, added Jack Pumpkinhead. Do be quiet, said Dick nervously. You must give me a chance to work the magic charm in the proper manner. Very carefully, he began sprinkling the thing with the precious powder. And my phone is 5%. So we'll just finish the sentence. Each of the 4 wings was first lightly covered with a layer. Then the sofas were sprinkled and the broom given a slight coating. This has been the brief life that I have ever done. I hope you enjoyed the sunshine. Bye bye.